And here we go. And wow, that's actually pretty good. That's actually visually pretty interesting, I would say. And yeah, definitely did not expect that. And here is the result, which is really, really bad. Okay, that's really terrible. And I would never use this for my business. So there aren't many things that I hate to do more than putting together a slide presentation. And honestly, for years, I almost had a silent policy in my business that we were just not going to create any of them unless we absolutely had to. But the AI tools that I'm going to show you today may have just changed my mind about this, because we're going to review the best AI presentation tool and compare them so that you can pick the best one for your business. If you don't know me, I'm Joey Mazar. I've been professionally reviewing SaaS tools for over 7 years and personally written over 2,000 reviews. All right, so let's just get into the first one, Gamma AI. That's probably the one that most of you have heard about. It's probably the most popular AI presentation tool. They just came out with their 3.0 version, so let's just test it out and let's see how it compares to lesser known AI tools. Because sometimes the most popular one is not necessarily the best product. Okay, and they give you several options, and I'm going to try the same prompt for all of those tools just to keep it fair. And with these tools, most of the time you have two options. Either you already have the text, the content for your presentation, which to be honest is going to be most of the time if you're actually using those presentation in your business, or you have the option where you don't really have the content. You just want to sort of have a initial mock-up layout of the presentation that you're then happy to fill out. And that's going to be with just a one-line prompt. So I'm going to start with that one and see how it does. So I'm just going to do a presentation. And the prompt is going to be the following. And this is the prompt that I'm going to use for all of those tools. Very simple, but just to create a 5-slide pitch deck to sell website design services package, including portfolio highlight, package options, benefits, and reasons to choose us. Again, that's the kind of presentation that if you have a business, you have the opportunity to create. And that could be a good example. So let's just see how it does with this. Yeah, it pretty much just took the outline that I had. So I'm pretty happy with that. And from this, I'm just going to go ahead and generate. And it gave me 10 slides, which is more than what I asked for. But I have some other options here to make it as concise as I wanted to. And the rest is just sort of visual options that you have. Let's see the advanced modes, which I think could be interesting here. Yeah, this will be just more fine tuning of the tone of voice and the different things that you want to have in there. I can see different image models, which are pretty interesting and pretty standard. These are sort of the cheapest model, if we're going to be honest, as in, it's not going to cost them too much in API to create this. I'm just on the free model, but if you pay, you will have access to, GPT image, which obviously is going to be probably a better quality. But for now, let's just go with this and see how it looks. And there we have it. So we have our 10 slides, which looks pretty good. I mean, the image is definitely better than what I remember Gamma AI to be. So that's a big improvement. Even on the free plan, we have different image generated. The content is AI content. Obviously, it's not going to be super good. The point here is probably for you to come in and fill it out. But, just right off the bat, after 30 seconds, it gives you a pretty good first draft and layout of your presentation. So, even with this one line prompt, I think you get a pretty good start to your presentation. Okay, but let's go back here and now do it with the prompt that I have prepared and see how it does. And this time I'm being a lot more specific and giving it slide by slide all of the content that I'm expecting. And I think that's going to be most of the time when you make a presentation in your business, which is that you have the content in mind and you're just looking for putting this together into your presentation. So let's see how it does with this. And I'm going to ask it to preserve this exact text. And here again, we get into this more advanced view where it has pretty well detected the different slides that I had, and we can make some small changes just to fine tune. Let's just go ahead with what we have here. So here we go. We have our 5 slides, and again, pretty impressed with the AI image quality, which is not too bad for this tool. So yeah, I mean, pretty basic. The content that I created was pretty basic to start with. Nothing too fancy, but it would be a pretty good start if you already have the content. Okay, so again, Gamma AI is probably the most popular AI presentation tool. So that's going to be sort of the main thing that we compare to other tools. So I'm going to keep those window open and we're going to go through the other tools and see how they compare to the main competitor, the big mammoth in the industry, which is Gamma AI. Okay, so our first contender is called Plus AI, which is another AI presentation maker. Something to note is that Gamma AI just kind of went off of their focus on just being for AI presentation, and now they do websites, they do some other stuff. So maybe having a tool that kept that focus onto just AI presentation, that's maybe when we're going to see some differences and maybe something that is even better than Gamma AI. So let's just try Plus AI and see how it does. So I'm not going to bore you and walk you through all of the features of those other tools. We're just going to put in the prompt and see how it actually does. We're going to see the results, and that's the best thing that we can compare to Gamma AI. Okay, so Plus AI is actually an add-on for Google Slide, which means that you need to work inside of Google Slide to make it work. It's not a separate software where you're going to build your presentation. It's going to be something that is on top of Google Slide. So let's go ahead and use our prompt and see what it does. Okay, so it definitely took a few minutes, and it's definitely a bit slower than Gamma AI. And the result is pretty basic. I mean, it's not ugly looking or anything. It's just very basic icons and formatting. I guess, if I really spend more time, I could make it better. But obviously the point here is that I don't have to spend too much time on this. And yeah, off the bat, the result visually at least is not as good as Gamma AI, I would say. The content is pretty good. Obviously the fact that this is in Google Slides for many people might make it easier to have an easier learning curve because they might already know this tool. But really, the results at the end of the day, I think is just not as good as Gamma AI. At least from a visual perspective, the content is decent. So, that's something to consider, I would say. And again, definitely slower than Gamma AI. Okay, so moving on with the next one, and that's Beautiful AI. Again, another AI presentation focused software. So let's give it a go. And we're going to generate with AI and give it the same prompt. I don't have that many options here, so let's just see how it does with this. Okay, so that was pretty quick, and I kind of like the visual off the bat, this sort of way to see the presentation. Again, in terms of design, it just actually made an effort to look somewhat good. The colors are fine, I guess. The content is pretty good, I would say, comparable to Gamma AI. It looks like I can easily switch a theme, so let's try it. And yeah, it seems pretty good. As far as design goes, it looks like we're pretty stuck with those sort of boxes, and that's probably fine for a presentation, but if you wanted to get really creative, it might not be the right tool. But overall, pretty good. I would say pretty close to Gamma AI in many ways. It doesn't seem like the most advanced one, but if you want something quick and easy, that could be a good option as well. Okay, so the next one we're gonna try is gonna be the very own native Google Gemini presentation helper. So if you go to your Google slide, you're gonna have the Ask Gemini button, and that's going to help you to put together a presentation. So let's go ahead and give it our prompt. Okay, and it looks like it can only create one slide at a time. So let's just go ahead with slide by slide. Again, I guess the big upside is that you probably already know how to use Google Slides. So just to add this layer on top shouldn't be too much learning curve. And here is the result, which is really, really bad. Okay, that's really terrible, and I would never use this for my business. And as with many other Google products, I would say this Ask Gemini option is just not really good at all at the moment. It takes a while, I think, for them to really tune into something that actually makes sense. So if you use Gmail, I think it's pretty much the same thing. Hopefully at some point it will be good, because Gemini itself is starting to be a pretty comparable LLM than ChatGPT, but really when it comes to those other tools, it's just not really doing much right now. Okay, so next contender is going to be SlideSpeak, another AI presentation focused tool. So let's give it a try. So let's go with this option, and we're going to go off of a topic and give it our single line prompt. I like the interface. We have a few more options here. I'm going to go for a professional tone and a standard amount of text. Let's add some images, some cover slides, and that should be pretty good. So let's see what it does. And it has a pretty ChatGPT-like interface with the chatbots. I guess that could be a plus side. Let's see how it does. Okay, so we will start with a outline, which seems to be good. Let's just generate the presentation. And here we go. And wow, that's actually pretty good. That's actually visually pretty interesting, I would say. And yeah, definitely did not expect that. So pretty good, I would say, off the bat. The content is decent. The layout, I think, is very interesting, and I can see the other templates that we can switch to are also pretty diverse and visually appealing. Let's just try this one, for example. Yeah, switches really fast to one other template, and again, just gives you a range of different layouts. And that's really what I want to see from those tools. It's something that will give me a lot of options in terms of visuals, tools and then do the legwork for me because I don't want to turn into a slide design expert. I just want to be able to click a few things and for this to work. So I think it does it pretty well. Again, the content is fine, but I'm really surprised about the quality of the layouts, and maybe I'm just easily too impressed, but it's pretty good. Each slide has different layout options, but obviously you can just change the overall theme, and you can easily make changes directly or just import it into Google Slide or PowerPoint and take it from there. So yeah, pretty good surprise. I would say is pretty much on par with Gamma AI, so that would be a good alternative as well. Okay, so next up is Magic Slides, and let's see if it's as magical as it pretends to be. Let's go ahead and input our prompt. And then we have several templates. I'm on the free plan, so I actually only have one template, but I can see other options. If the tool is good enough, I guess it could be worth it to pay, but for now, we're just gonna go with the standard default template. And I can see now that it's pretty limiting in terms of its free plan compared to the other ones that we've tried. So I can only select the default template, the short length of text, and a few other things. I do like that I can select the actual AI model. Again, I guess on the free plan, you only have Gemini 2.0 Flash, which is pretty cheap for them. But I suppose if you upgrade, then you can actually pay for better advanced models. Same thing for images. All right, so let's just run it and see what it does. Again, on the free plan, I just don't expect too much, but let's see if it does pretty well. Okay, it was really fast. But yeah, not really impressed by the design here. Yeah, it's just very basic, something that I could easily create in 2 seconds in Google Slide. So again, maybe the paid version is worth it, but as far as this free version goes, I think it's really what most people would try first. So, you know, if your free version is not good, then I'm not going to be willing to really pay for this. So again, yeah, not really impressed. Probably not something that I would spend too much time on. Okay, so the last contender today is going to be Pitch. This one, I guess, is more focused on creating pitch decks. So let's see how it does for our prompt here. I'm going to go with the AI version because that's really what we're comparing here. And it gives me a few fonts to pick from, just not that many really, but let's pick something that is okay. Okay, so pretty fast. It did create more than 5 slides. I don't mind too much. The visuals are fine, I guess. The content is decent, although this is not super relevant, I would say. But it's pretty interesting, the different format that it came up with. So we have a timeline here, we have a graph, then we have more, sort of standard formats. But, I like the diversity here. It's not too bad. Again, the actual, overall look is pretty bland. I do see we have quite a few options to edit the design, animation. Again, for me, the main thing that I'm looking for is that I don't have to do very much at all. So, if I have to dig around and tweak a bunch of options to make it look good, that's probably not going to be how I use it. But, for you, if you don't mind spending a bit more time, maybe it's fine. Again, for me, off the bat, it's okay, but it's just not really one of the best that we've tried today. Okay, so in conclusion, what do we think about all of those? If I had to give sort of my top 3 from what we tried today, I would say Gamma AI is still up there. Just off the bat, you have a really good interface, really good design, just really good presentation. The content is good. Everything is pretty easy. So still in the top 3 for me. SlideSpeak was a very strong contender. I really liked just the different options. Very, very fast. The content is good. The layouts and options are good. I think it's a good balance between something that looks too fancy and too many options and something that was fast and still giving me what I wanted. So for me, pretty good surprise here with SlideSpeak. And lastly, Beautiful AI definitely stands out with the presentation and a few of the options. Lacks a bit of the advanced features. Again, it might not be a problem for you. Definitely would be fine for me. But again, overall, I thought it was pretty good. Maybe a tier below Gamma AI and SlideSpeak, but still a very strong contender. And that's pretty much it. I hope this helped you save a bit of time trying those different tools. And again, it depends how you plan on using this in your business. Again, for me, I have very specific things that I'm looking for. So maybe this is not your criteria. Just take this with the grain of salt. And this is just my opinion on those tools. If you're looking for even more practical ways to implement AI in your business, just go ahead and watch this next video. If you just want to keep updated in general with AI automations and how to implement them in your business, then go ahead and subscribe to my free newsletter. That's going to be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.